Hello and welcome to another episode of D&D Pop Alchemy. I am your host and creator, President B. Kennedy. Thank you for being here with us today, and without further ado, we're going to get into it. Today's episode is about Freddy Kruger as a D&D character, so that's going to be fun-tacular. Alright, so one of my friends requested this, and I'm just going to jump into it. Not gonna throw a whole bunch of discussion out there. If you don't know what this series is, Pop Alchemy is where we take a pop culture character and we turn them into a D&D character. And we try and do it as simply as possible, so you can just pick up the character and play with it in a D&D campaign if you want to do something like that. So anyways, Freddy Krueger. Let's look at our candidate for today's episode. He is the main monster from Nightmare on Elm Street. He is a serial killer. And I've already gone and done all the legwork, so all we have to do is sit here and enjoy. So let's open this. Freddy is a dream demon. Oof, it's already spooky. Freddy is a dream demon who attacks his victims from within their dreams. He is commonly identified by his brown, disfigured face, red and green striped sweater, brown fedora, and trademark metal claw brown leather glove only on his right hand. The glove was the product of Kruger's own imagination, the blade having been wielded by himself. Freddy represents neglect, particularly that suffered by children. The character also more broadly represents subconscious fears. So we had a lot of good options we could pursue when we were creating this character, and I'll show you guys what I decided. I try to stick to conventional standards, so these can fit in most campaign settings and with most DMs. However, here we do use some Unearthed Arcana, and then we also use Xanathar's Guide to Everything, which is a spectacular book, and I highly suggest picking it up. Alright, so for Freddy, I will start with race and background and alignment. Freddy, to me, seemed like a very neutral evil character. As if you watch his movies, he's not a crazy murder psychopath killing everybody. He is a serial killer. He wants to get retribution on specific people, and he goes after them with extreme malice and extreme determination. I thought about making him a revenant, but I think in the end what ended up working out the best was a urchin background and a tiefling for the race. I chose tiefling because, of course, you know, he's got his burned, disfigured face, and tieflings have a affinity to fire just in the nature of their demonic infernal heritage. So that was about the closest we could get to a demon without actually, you know, homebrewing a complete demon. From there, the urchin background had a lot of things that you could just pick as far as personality traits straight out of the player's handbook that really help fit him. He's very stealthy when he wants to be, as far as not being seen until the moment of the kill, or when he's torturing people. So you got stealth and sleight of hand as I should probably be pointing these out. You got stealth and sleight of hand as skill proficiencies from being an urchin, and then also personality traits. I bluntly say what other people are hiding. As when he's coming after somebody, he really likes picking on people's fears. Retribution is the main ideal that motivates him. As orphan, we had the bond that I sponsor an orphanage, as Freddy was in charge of a daycare before he was burned alive. And then, of course, for his fatal flaw, I'd rather kill somebody in their sleep than fight fair, as he is the dream killer. Alright, as far as class combinations goes, we went with Warlock, 3 levels. Everything you see here will be rolled up to level 6, anything you see on the channel, of course. We went with Warlock for 3 levels and Ranger for 3 levels. And why we chose that was because as Warlock from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, we got the Hexblade pack, which lets us have this really great ability to curse and torment foes, and as long as we're hunting after a single individual foe, we'll get a whole bunch of, or rather Freddy will get a whole bunch of benefits from chasing after and attacking that one foe. And that's kind of what he does, is he picks out his targets one by one and he goes and kills them one by one. The other thing we got is 3 levels in Ranger. We borrowed from the revised Ranger from Unearthed Arcana, and then also Xanathar's Guide to Everything. The Ranger Conclave we got is called the Gloomstalker. The great thing about the Gloomstalker is... there we go. I had to see if I had the information on there. The Gloomstalker is kind of your classic Freddy or Jason figure in D&D, as they are the people who just walk menacingly towards their enemies and then they just eviscerate into them. I'll go through all the bonuses we get one by one and explain the character a little bit. So for being a tiefling, we get dark vision out to 60 feet. That is modified out to 90 feet because we are a Gloomstalker. So Freddy will be able to see in the dark better than any other character generally that you put him next to. Tieflings also have hellish resistance. He died in fire once and now he's not as affected by it. So he has resistance to fire damage. The other thing Tieflings get is Infernal Legacy, which is from their demonic origin. They gain access to the Thaumaturgy cantrip, Hellish Rebuke, and then Darkness as a... and they can cast each one of those spells once per day, or once per long rest. And then they cast those spells on their Charisma, which we are a Warlock, so Charisma is going to be our main casting stat. And I'm like thinking over this now. I probably should have went over why I put my traits where I did, but we'll come back to that. And actually, we'll go through that as soon as we finish this stuff. For being a urchin, of course, we have City Secrets as our urchin background, which is going to let us transverse through cities and find our targets a lot quicker if we were, playing Freddy. And okay, so from there, that's everything we get for being a tiefling and a urchin, and we'll jump back over to our stats. So we use the standard array set forth in the Adventurers League of our highest score being a 15, the next highest 14, 13, 12, 10, and then 8 is the way those stats break down. So of course we put our highest score into our Charisma, as Warlock was our first class, and it's what we're going to be dealing all of our damage and everything off of later, and I'll explain why. Our next highest score, the 14, we put into our Dexterity. So since we're going to be in the front lines chasing after these people and trying to scare them, we did need to have a little bit of armor, so the Dexterity is going to help out with our armor class just a little bit. The 13 we went and put into our Wisdom, because we did need to have 13 Wisdom in order to multi-class into Ranger. So Rangers cast spells off of their Wisdom modifier instead of their other stats. Our next highest score, the 12 of Constitution, or we put that into our Constitution just to bulk us up a little bit. Even though we are a melee attacker, our strength score is 10, and we really don't need to worry about our strength. And our Freddy's intelligence is a -1, which we put our 8 there. For being a tiefling, we got to increase our charisma by 2, and then we got to increase our intelligence by 1. And those are going to be our final stats. Because we're level 3 in one class and level 3 in another class, we don't get any ability score adjustments, so those are going to be just what the ability scores are. One of the great setups of this is we're going to be dealing damage off of our charisma modifier even when we make melee attacks. So we don't really have to worry about our dexterity or strength at all. Coming back to, let's go through our classes. As far as I feel like those are the things that are relevant. Back to our classes. For being a warlock, we picked Hexblade as our preferred class, and I guess I'll zoom in on this a little bit so we can see this. Or maybe I can't. There we go. Just put that quite prominent on the screen. Anyways, we went with Hexblade for our Warlock class, which is in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. The Hexblade isn't specifically isn't a normal sentient patron like you'd think. It's a mysterious entity from the Shadowfell, formed in often that takes the form of some sort of weapon. But we don't have to worry about that. The Warlock invocations we took, we have Grasp of Hadar from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and Fiendish Vigor from the Player's Handbook. Grasp of Hadar, anytime we hit somebody with Eldritch Blast cantrip, we can move them 10 feet closer towards us in a straight line. So if anyone's ever running away, we are going to have that really good horror feeling of pulling people back towards us. Fiendish Vigor, we can cast False Life on ourselves at will as a first level spell without expending any spell slots or material components. So we can just keep doing that over and over and over again. And False Life's going to give us a pool of temporary hit points, as we are pretty squishy. And as long as we're chasing after our targets, we want to make sure our character feels kind of like he's invulnerable. And those False Life's going to help us do that. Into more of our Warlock features, for being a Hexblade, we get this wonderful ability, and this is what everything's going to be kind of centered around, called Hexblade's Curse. Starting at first level, you gain the ability to... Oof, and I don't like how I type that. We'll just do that like that. Starting at first level, you gain the ability to place a baleful curse on someone as a bonus action. Choose one creature you can see within 30 feet of you. The target is cursed for 1 minute. The curse ends if the target dies, you die, or you are incapacitated. Until the curse ends, you gain the following benefits. You gain a bonus to damage rolls against the cursed target. The bonus damage is equal to your proficiency bonus. Any attack roll you make against the cursed target is a critical hit on a roll of 19 or 20 on the d20 when you roll that. And if the cursed target dies, you regain hit points equal to your Warlock level plus your Charisma modifier. So that's going to give us 6 hit points every time we kill somebody with our Hexblade Curse. If the curse... you cannot use this feature again until you finish a short or long rest. So... generally, once per combat, we're going to be able to curse a target and chase them out and kill them. That's good because this character really focuses on, isolating one target, finding them, ending them, then, going and finding your next. The next thing we get from being a 3rd level warlock is Pact of the Blade. You can use your action to create a pack weapon in your empty hand. And this is our pack boon that we're choosing. We choose Pact of the Blade. And I'm not going to go through actually and read all of this because Pact of the Blade is in the player's handbook, so doesn't need any extra explaining. The cool thing about Pact of the Blade is you basically call upon your patron's magic, and you form a weapon. You form a tangible weapon out of that magic that you can call at any time. And this weapon can look like however you want it to look and have the stats of a similar corresponding weapon. So, of course, we have Freddy's iconic glove hand, which, let's me just go ahead and close this. Which the glove hand is not an item in D&D. However, we can make it with our Pact of the Blade because we get to craft the weapon however we want it to look. So for the glove hand, I went with a light finesse weapon, similar to a short sword, because I felt like it would deal more damage than just a simple dagger blade, and I gave it stats comparable to a short sword, as far as 1d6 of slashing damage. And the cool thing about the Pact of the Blade is it undercuts all resistances. So if they have resistance to slashing damage, your Pact Blade ignores that and deals full damage, which is beautiful. Hex Warrior, we get that for being a Hexblade Warlock from our patron. At first level, you acquire the training necessary to arm yourself, or to effectively arm yourself in battle. You gain proficiency with medium armor, shields, and martial weapons. So that lets us have the, we're already proficient with our Pact Blade, but that martial weapon gives us the option to wield more weapons to turn into our Pact Blade. The influence of your patron channels through you. Oh, and this is the beautiful thing of why we dumped that 13 into our charisma and we're a melee attacker. Hex Warrior allows us to add our charisma modifier instead of strength or dexterity to attack and damage rolls. Oof, let me close Facebook. I didn't even know I had that open. So from there, we're going to be able to add our charisma modifier to all of our damage rolls and attack rolls, and we're not even going to have to worry about our low strength or our low dexterity, because Freddy is more like a force of personality that, you know, kills you from your mind. So that's going to be beautiful and exactly how we want it. Coming back to... that's about all the Warlock things we get off the bat. We do get Warlock spells. We learn 3 first level spells and 1 second level spell. And we have 2 spell slots for being from our pack magic. And we can cast those spells. Any pack magic spell slot counts as a 2nd level spell from our Warlock levels. So, the Warlock spells I chose are Hex, which is going to put another curse on our target. And if we, basically what Hex does is we curse the target again, on top of whatever curses we already have there. And if we attack that target, not only do they now have a disadvantage on an ability score of our choice, but if we attack that target, we deal additional damage. So it really hammers in this role of chasing down one target, cursing them, terrifying them, and just going after them. The next spell we got is Protection from Evil and Good, that we can cast as a Warlock spell. I chose that just because in some situations Freddy is very protected and near invincible until you can pull him out of his comfort zone. The other spell was a mechanical one I chose just because this character is going to be dashing into combat, chasing after their target, and trying to jump out of the shadows and kill them, and then likely being surrounded by other enemies after that. Arms of Hadier is a spell that we'll go ahead and cast that at 1 and see if that appeared over here. Let's see. Arms of Hadier is a spell that making sure my face isn't in the way. Boom. We'll just move that right there, and everything's better. Arms of Hadier is a spell that does AoE damage and blasts everybody around you back a couple feet, just to give you that opportunity to kill, free up the area, and get out of there. We have some other spells granted by being a ranger, which we'll come back to those. But the final warlock spell we got is Misty Step. It is a level 2 spell, and it lets us just use a bonus action to teleport 30 feet anywhere around us. So we can pop out of the shadows and attack our target if we really wanted to. Alrighty, moving down the list, back to Ranger. As a 3rd level Ranger, we are using Ranger Revised. It is a Unearthed Arcana, and I got it right here. Wizards openly admits they underpowered Rangers in the original Player's Handbook. So Ranger Revised is a Unearthed Arcana they put out that modified a few of the Rangers' class abilities to make them a little bit stronger and put them on par with other classes. So if at any time I read something off this list and you don't recognize it, that's why, because we're pulling from there. So we have favorite enemy, humanoids. Freddy hunts humans. Beginning at 1st level, you have significant experience in studying, tracking, hunting, and even talking to a certain type of enemy commonly encountered in the wilds. Choose one type of favorite enemy, and we're going with humanoids. You gain +2 bonus to damage rolls with weapon attacks against creatures of the chosen type. Additionally, you have advantage on wisdom survival checks to track your favorite enemies, as well as on intelligence checks to recall information about them. When you gain this feature, you also learn one language of your choice, typically one spoken by your favorite enemy or creatures associated with it. However, you are free to pick any language you wish to learn. So that's just going to let us track people a lot better and deal more damage when we get close to them. Coming back to more of our Ranger feats, Natural Explorer. The beautiful thing about this is we have advantage rolls on initiative rolls, and this is I'm not going to explain all of it, but you have advantage on initiative rolls, you ignore difficult terrain, and on your first turn during combat you have advantage on attack rolls against any creatures that haven't acted yet. This is going to be great because this is going to let Freddy be that ambusher who gets the drop on people and, you know, jumps out of a mirror, jumps out of their dreams, keeps them terrified as he chases after them. Ignoring difficult terrain is going to be good too, because imagine a chase scene through an alley and somebody throws some boxes in front of your character. You just ignore all of that difficult terrain and keep just stalking straight through them after your target. Fighting style from being a ranger: when wielding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, which is going to be our one glove blade, our glove hand, you gain a +2 bonus to damage rolls with that weapon. So that's going to be an additional +2 damage. So if we're fighting a human, we're rolling with +4 damage on our damage rolls, in addition to our charisma modifier already dealing 3, so that'd be +7. And then if we have our if that target is marked with our hex, we're rolling for +10 damage against a single target, before, you know, or just adding to whatever we roll before we factor in any of our other spells that we might have active on the target. For being a ranger at 2nd level, we gain access to spell casting. we know 3 first level spells and have 3 spell slots, I believe. Yep. Alright, so for spell casting, we took Hunter's Mark, which functions very similar to Hex, except it's a different type of damage, and then we can move it around onto targets as we kill them. So basically, you can Hunter's Mark somebody, keep your eye on them, and every time you attack them, you're going to deal bonus damage. When they die, you can change your Hunter's Mark to a new target. Ensnaring Strike is going to be beautiful because on a bonus action we'll have the chance to a target we attack will have to make a strength saving throw or be trapped in place and restrained, and then they'll be unable to get away from us. The final ranger spell we took is Fog Cloud, which allows us to just obscure an area as we go after our one target. Of course, we'll be able to track perfectly fine in that fog from our favorite enemy feat and our dark vision. Coming back to our traits, our fighting style, dueling, we already went over that. Primeval Awareness is another ranger trait you get that allows you to take a few moments. Well, 1, you can communicate with beasts, and then 2, you can take a few moments and meditate, and then you can locate and discern the direction of your favorite enemies and how many of them are within range, and just keep that hunter pursual nature of the character going on. Alright, so Gloomstalker is the Ranger Conclave we got at 3rd level, which gives us some other abilities. For being a Gloomstalker at 3rd level, you master the art of ambush. You can give yourself a bonus to initiative rolls equal to your wisdom modifier, so that's going to turn our initiative from +2 to +3 instead, because we're adding our 1 wisdom and our 2 dexterity to it. And then we're also going to be rolling that with advantage. So, oof. That's going to be probably one of our worst initiative rolls right there. 17, but most of the time your initiative is going to be pretty. Or maybe it's not going to be, but a lot of the times you'll generally on average have better initiative than you would if you were just a normal character, because we're rolling it with advantage, and then we're rolling it we're getting that additional +1 in it. At the start of your first turn of each combat, your walking speed increases by 10 feet, which lasts until the end of that turn. If you take the attack action on that turn, you make 1 additional melee attack as part of that action. If that attack hits, the target takes an extra 1d8 of damage of the weapon's damage type. So when we go after our target on that first turn, we'll just be able to stock in, hopefully get real close to your target, spend a bonus action to either put a Hex or Hunter's Mark on them, and then get those 2 attacks on and proc all that additional beautiful damage. Umbral Sight, at 3rd level you gain Dark Vision out to 60 feet. If you already have Dark Vision from your race, its range increases by 30 feet, which is why we're seeing at 90 feet of Dark Vision, which is going to be better than most other classes' ability to see. You're also adept at evading creatures that rely on Dark Vision. While in darkness, you are invisible to any creature that relies on Dark Vision to see you in that darkness. This is going to help out as we are able to create magical darkness too, to keep obscuring the sight of our character until we get close enough to land those killing stabs in. Then we'll go up here to the weapons. So the glove hand is going to be rolling with it's got it at +8 right now. Yes, alright, so it is, I had to do the math in my head real quick. it's going to be rolling with plus 8 damage normally, and that's going to be the 3 from your Hexblade's Curse, plus the 2 from your dueling feature. And then if you're attacking a humanoid, you get an additional 2 onto that. Which, you know, this 11 damage would be 13 damage. Of course, where all of the damage is going to come in at is from your modifiers. So if the target was hexed, actually we'll type that out now. If the target was hexed or had Hunter's Mark on them, you can only have one of them at a time. And this was your first attack of the round, and they're a humanoid. You'd be looking at a roll of something like that: 1d6 plus 1d6 plus 1d8 plus 10. That's going to be about your average damage that you're hitting people with. Then, of course, you do have your Eldritch Blast to pull people closer towards you if they try and run. And you have a couple other really nice Warlock tricks to keep dealing damage to people. And, of course, you know, you'd get 2 attacks on your first... you get 2 attacks on your first round of attacking. So, you know, just walking towards somebody on your first round, you'd be dealing good 38 points of damage on them, and staying as that spooky stalker man. These classes aren't going to be min-maxed or anything beautiful. They're just really to capture the theme of the character. So hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you want to play this character, you can just go ahead and copy what I have done here. And this is the starting gear you get from the player's handbook for the things that we, for the classes and background that we chose. If you would like the character sheet already filled out, you can become a patron. And I will be providing access to all of these on my Patreon. And look out for more fun pop culture characters to come. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.